Hey guys, it's Lauren. Thank you so much for watching. In other videos, I've talked about how I was able to start my own studio salon without a clientele. And I've said many times that you don't need to have a clientele in order to be successful as an independent hairstylist or successful at suite renting. Because basically the number one thing you hear is once you build your clientele, then you can go out on your own. And of course that's going to help. It's going to make sure that you have income right away, but there is a way to go independent without having an already built clientele. So this video might be helpful if you are somebody who's moving from another state and you have to rebuild your clientele, which I feel for you. I know it's so hard. Now I will say, just as a word of caution, there's a lot of stylists who will reach out to me as soon as they are done with school saying like, I heard you could be an independent hairstylist without already having a clientele. You could go out on your own without having a clientele. Do you think I could do it? Yes, I do think you can do it. However, I wouldn't advise you to do it specifically, but there's always exceptions to every rule. But I really think that you need a lot of experience in order to do this on your own. That's why I kind of more recommend this for people who already have a lot of experience working at a salon and have to like move out of state and rebuild, and they don't necessarily want to work at another salon or rebuild their clientele and then ultimately start a studio or go independent. They already know they want to be independent and they don't want to build their clientele at another salon. Or another situation could be that maybe the salon that you're working at has like this really strict non-compete policy, which I used to work at a salon that had that, and they will basically sue you if you try to take any of your clients with you to your salon. So you've done all this work to build a clientele and you can't even bring them with you. Now the good news I have to say about that is you don't need the asset of a clientele in order to be successful, but there are some things that you really should have in place if you are considering doing something like this, because it is completely out of the norm. No one encourages you to do it this way. But there's also some benefits to starting a studio salon without a clientele as well. So we'll get into all of that today, and I'll make sure that you walk away with the practical things that you need to have in place in order to try and start your own business without a clientele. Okay, so like you've heard in other videos, I built a clientele from scratch, going straight to a studio salon a few different times. And in my situation, I had like moved out of state. It was in a completely new area, so there wasn't anybody that was just gonna be my clients. But I knew that I didn't wanna work at a salon first before I went independent. It was important to me that I was independent. So because of that, I think that's one of the driving factors that made me successful. That's my ultimate goal, is to be independent. I don't want to work for somebody else. And because that was so important to me, it really drove me to do things that are not necessarily what everybody else is doing. I really had to think outside the box. I had to be creative. It forced me to really grow as a hairstylist. So here are the things that I would suggest if you want to go out on your own and you don't have a clientele. Number one is you have to have experience and you have to have confidence that you're able to serve your community. So if something that you're really struggling with is your confidence in your skill level, that needs to be in place first before you go out on your own. Now, there's nobody that is going to be completely confident in their skills ever. Even if you've been a hairstylist for 20 years, you're not completely confident in everything because things are always changing. And just as an artist in general, you're never going to just have complete 100% confidence. But what you need to have is a basic understanding of the fundamentals of hairdressing, whether it's color, cut. You need to be confident in those things, and you need to have experience with those things and just learning how clients communicate so that you can make sure that you are using the right techniques, using the right strategies in order to help them achieve the goals that they want with their hair. If you are not confident that you're able to do that for clients, to provide your own suggestions, to help guide clients, to help deliver the results that they're looking for, if you don't have confidence there, I highly suggest that you're not ready to go out on your own. Now, there are people who have gotten out on their own just right out of school and just like have started suite rentals and stuff. And actually, I know somebody who did this and she was super successful. She's done a great job, but she also just sought out a bunch of education. She did so much practice and things like that, but it could be super overwhelming. So you want to make sure that you're very strong in your basics and you're so strong that you actually have the wisdom to know what to do with the majority of clients that come in your chair. Some people are super difficult. You're never going to be able to please everybody, of course, but you want to feel confident that you can communicate properly with clients so that you have the wisdom to know what to do for each one. And that only comes from experience. You can have the deepest understanding of hair color. You can be extremely skilled in hair color, but if you don't know how to communicate with clients based on the experience you've had with past clients, that will be a big factor in your success when you're out on your own. The second thing that I would say that you should have in place before you go out on your own is a savings. You should have a specific savings that you built up for you to start this new venture. And that's true in any other business. So why wouldn't it be true if you're a solo entrepreneur as well? I would never advise someone to take out loans in order to be an independent hairstylist or a, suite rental hairstylist. I would always do the work to raise the money that you need to in order to pay for maybe, I would say, 3 to 4 months of expenses, both for the salon and for your income as well. Because you don't want to have the expectation going into your first day of salon rental with no clientele and having this expectation that you're going to get walk-ins, that you're just going to have people ready to get services from you and pay you for your services. The likelihood of that happening is very, very low. So I just want to level your expectations there. That's probably not going to happen. And that's why I recommend having a savings built up to prepare yourself for that. So I would say save 3 to 4 months of expenses for the salon. So make a list of everything that you're probably going to need for your salon. Estimate what your rent's going to be. Estimate what your, color costs are going to be, what your maintenance charges are going to be. Things like that. Estimate all of those things. Project it out about 3 to 4 months, including your living expenses as well, so that you can make sure that you are set for 3 to 4 months if you don't make a dime. This is the best way to become completely confident that you're going to make it. Because I'll tell you, when you have week after week of having no clients, as I did, or maybe just like 1 or 2 here and there, you will become extremely discouraged. So in order to prevent that from being a total disaster and making you feel like that you want to quit, if you at least have your expenses covered, you can breathe a little bit and focus on what you need to do in order to grow your clientele and be successful. Now, the third thing that I think that you should have in place before you think about going independent or, renting a studio is to have a marketing plan. You want to figure out who exactly you're trying to serve going independent and have a marketing plan in place to attract your dream clientele. Because one of the main reasons for going independent is because you want to pick who you're serving, you want to pick the services that you provide, you want to pick the pricing. And in order to do that effectively, you have to know exactly who your clientele is. And I think it's so important to do the exercise and rigorous thinking it takes to come up with who your dream clientele is. Sometimes you can figure that out based on experiences. You know exactly who you don't want to be your clients. And then sometimes you can figure that out just by thinking of your ideal client. Where do they shop? What other things are they interested in? What kind of groups are they a part of? That is how you're going to be able to speak to them on a personal level and be able to attract those exact people that you want as your clients. So that is something that you should include in your marketing plan, and make sure that you have a marketing plan in place. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you have to have some sort of plan starting out. I would never just recommend going into it and having no plan at all. The next thing that I would suggest before you go independent without a clientele is to actually build up hype and build a reputation before you take the leap to going independent. So that way you're already starting to establish some credibility, because credibility is the most important thing when it comes to your success as a hairstylist, whether it's independent or commission. If the buzz around what you're doing is not good, it's going to be very, very difficult to be successful when you're independent. So you want to make sure that you get to work to building a reputation, especially if you're in a new state. You want to try to build that reputation before you even start paying for a salon studio. And one of the ways that I did this was I always was working on models, and I built my reputation that way. Instead of having to wait years and years and years for clients to refer me, because I didn't have any clients to work on in the first place, I would always keep myself busy by working on models. Before I moved to a new state, I would have all of this content that I could post online, post on my website, post on Instagram, and then I would hashtag my new location so that people in that area could start to figure out that I was in the area. And if they were interested in getting services from me, I would just put them on a wait list so that when I got down there, I at least had a few people interested in getting services from me. And I could then reach out to them with offers, promotions, or just letting them know that I'm finally here. We can book our appointments now. Sometimes I would even just pre-book them too. And they had no idea that I wasn't even there yet. They just thought I was busy. So you can start to kind of build a reputation, start acquiring, information of prospective clients by, posting on Instagram, using hashtags for that location that you are going to rather than the location that you're currently in, and start building your client list before you actually start working on them. So that's just another way to prepare for actually going out on your own and becoming independent. The next thing that I would do to prepare to go independent without a clientele is to kind of look at the other businesses in the area, how they are serving the community, what people are saying about those other businesses. Say there's a yoga studio, say there's a bakery, say there's a barber, kind of look at how all of the other businesses are serving your community. You can get an idea of what the people are like there, what the people expect there, things like that. So just research the area that you're moving to, or research, the community that you're in already. I mean, even if you're already in that area, you may not really understand those aspects of your market yet before you go independent. And that's something you really want to have a good grasp on. You may not even know about those things before you go independent. You may not have done that research to actually understand your community and who you're trying to serve. And that's something that you definitely want to do before you go independent, so that you can be confident that you have the ability to serve those people. And the last thing I'll say about this is not for the faint of heart. It is very stressful and very scary to go independent, to start studio salons without a clientele. I was in a position where I kind of just felt like I had to do that because, again, I knew my ultimate goal was to be independent. I had already had an independent studio before. And when I moved to a new state, I didn't want to try to build a clientele somewhere else just so that I could try to save 10% of that clientele when I moved to go independent. And my reason for that was I knew that my philosophies and my culture of my little salon that I wanted to achieve was inevitably going to be different from whatever salon I was growing my clientele at. And then to ask them to come over to my salon and this whole new way of thinking, this whole new way of doing things would just be so challenging. But to start from scratch was actually kind of exciting to me, even though it was also scary as well. But to start from scratch, with my own philosophies, my own way of doing things, just from the beginning, as opposed to having a clientele that's used to the parking situation, that's used to, what they get when they're at that salon, that's used to that environment, that's just so comfortable in what they were doing, and trying to ask them to leave and come with me and start this new thing, I could actually just attract people directly to my new thing, and they didn't have expectations from the salon I was at before. So that's one of the benefits that you could look forward to of doing this. Maybe the salon that you were at before had extremely low prices, so there isn't really a great connection to what you're trying to start in this new salon. So trying to just hang on to every single client is not really an option. But you have this opportunity when you don't have a clientele with the expectations from the previous salon to build it into your own brand. But again, it's not easy. It takes a lot of thought to really understand your market and how you can best serve them and how to compete for their attention and to get them to book with you. And you're gonna do certain promotions and certain marketing tactics that are going to fail. And you have to be okay with that. But if the why behind you doing this is so strong, you're going to find a way to make it work. Also, the last thing that I will say about, starting your own studio salon without a clientele is you want to make sure that you establish yourself on Google. If anybody is searching for something that you provide, a service you provide, you want to make sure that Google knows about it, because one of the first places people go to find a hairstylist is the internet. Sometimes they're just looking for someone close. Sometimes they're looking for a specific service. So make sure that you establish your own little business on Google. That's going to do wonders to make sure that you are establishing that reputation like we talked about before you even start your salon. So just some words of wisdom before you do this. Make sure that you don't start doing these things right when you start paying rent. You want to make sure that you have built a savings, you've started to build your reputation, you've started to build a wait list, you have a marketing plan, you've considered your expenses, you've done all of those things before you try to go independent without a clientele. My advice is never to be not prepared. I'm simply saying that you don't need a clientele in order to be successful. It's very, very difficult to think this far ahead and to do this much planning. That's why most people aren't going to do it. But if you're in a situation where you have to do it, or you just really, really are motivated to do it, I hope that you understand that it's at least possible. And then also, if going independent is something that you are seriously considering and you just need a little bit of help with to take the fear out of doing it, I want to make sure that you check out my new free guide, and that's in the link in the description below. It kind of tells you everything you want to have in place, all the practical stuff you need to have in place in order to go independent, so you don't have to worry about taxes and legal stuff and things like that. All the things that you just kind of have to think about before you start your own little business. So if you're thinking of doing that, definitely want to have this guide. It is in the link in the description below. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Again, my name is Lauren, and I will see you in the next one.